My name is Apuk Ayuel Mayen. I wear many hats. I'm a poet, now a published author. I'm also a social entrepreneur. I am also a diplomat by profession. I love writing. I've been writing for the longest. I call poetry my confidant. And I'm glad that I have been kind of pushed and cajoled by many people to publish because I've always been writing for myself. And so I encourage any other youth, your voice is important. We all have different experiences, and so we have different stories, and it's important for us to tell them. So the two books, the two collection of poetry have been written. You know, it's poetry, a collection of poetry is not like any other normal book. The poems that I have in both of these books have been written in the span of the last 14 years. And so the earliest poem in Kindred I wrote it in 2002. The earliest poem in No More Betrayals was written in 2004. And so the decision to collect, to make them into a collection, to publish them, I made it maybe 3-4 years ago, and it took me that long to get to the publishing point. So it's just about finding chemistry between the poetry that I decided to put in one book versus putting it on the other one, finding the themes, organizing them according to those themes. And in the beginning, I wanted it to be one book, but because there were two distinct themes within the book, I decided to separate them into two books. If a reader opens No More Betrayal, they would find just poetic snapshots of South Sudan for the past 10 years. They would find a child soldier. They would find South Sudanese people's expectations for independence. They would meet Kuala Dol from ABA, because I wrote a eulogy about him. You would meet just a normal soldier struggling now. You would also meet the heroes of liberation. You would meet a woman protesting and asserting her rights. So there are multiple characters. I tried to just basically depict our South Sudanese experiences through these poems in No More Betrayals. On the other hand, if you pick up Kindred, then I think you will meet me. You would meet my thoughts, some of the experiences that I've had as a person. You would meet maybe my philosophy on life and spirituality. So to me, No More Betrayals is home, is South Sudan, is our beloved. And Kindred is me, my own experiences. في زول قال قبل قال الشعر ديوان الحياة. And basically, poetry is a journal of life. And life includes all these things. And if you are a poet, then what you want to do most of the time, for me personally, because when I started writing for myself. So I would be having a certain experience that I want to make sense of it in my head. I could be feeling anger, I could be feeling, disappointment, I could be feeling love, I could be feeling all kinds of different feelings that are part of our life. But then as a person, I reflect on that. And when I reflect on that, perhaps a poem emerges. And that's why you see The two people, even in No More Betrayals, there, although because it's a record of our history and we have the ups and downs, but if you read the poem on referendum I have called Hear My Chant, it's about pride. It's about pride that now we are at the moment in history, in the moment of history, voting for an independent South Sudan. So those feelings are all part of our lives. And I think for me, personally, because I believe in reflection and I believe in coming to catharsis and understanding whatever it is that is happening within me, I believe it's important to remember those things, to reflect them, to acknowledge them, to reflect on them, to acknowledge them, and to learn from them, whatever it is in life.
Well, thank you, Charles, for having me. Well, first of all, let me again congratulate Apuk for this wonderful work. 2 books of poetry is not an easy achievement at all. She did wonderfully. We started, I will not take credit for anything at all, but yes, I mentored Apuk briefly, and we talked about some of these poets and so on. We work on them, but at the end of the day, it's her own work. It's been wonderful. I am just pleased by the turnout. Cross-generational, people of different ages came, and we spent almost 3 hours of beautiful, beautiful discussion on African poetry, how we started during the colonial era, what happened in the struggle era, and where are we going with African poetry at this point. So I cannot express my pleasure enough. Well, what stands out is that Apuk has a very strong personality. She has her own way of thinking. She writes beautifully. She keeps a lot of stuff for herself. And she also writes about herself in a sort of a not very obvious way. But this is not unusual. You know, many poets throughout history went through this kind of writing. Poets, all kinds of writers, it doesn't matter what kind of genre you are involved in, but poets, they think ahead. And they also think behind, retrospectively, in the past. Like Apuk's poem, I Remember, it's about the past. But that past should guide our path for the future. So yes, poets can tremendously influence the society. You know, because they write about society, within the society. So whatever they write is informed by what they see around them. So in fact, they're very, very important tools for change, and I hope people appreciate them for what they are. And there should be enough space for poets to write. There's nothing that a poet can write would hurt anybody at all. The one thing that they should take away from this book is that everybody has a story to tell. It doesn't matter how simple, how young, how old you are, how poor you are, you have a story to tell. So I want people who read Apuk's books to say, oh, I think I can also write, I can tell my own story. So I hope that inspiration would be something that they will take away from the 2 books. Yeah.
The street.
Stop, Akif, don't go ahead.
مرات كتير بيهضموا بالطارة في نص الطريق وراجعين كمان من المدرسة. Stop أكيد don't go ahead don't overtake أكد الطريق يا المدرسة. Stop أكيد don't go ahead don't overtake أكد الطريق يا المدرسة. مرات بيكون لابسين جرين وكمان بيوت أو كان يدو ديل برضهم يا المدرسة. لو في الصباح أو في المساء ديل كلهم يا المدرسة. Stop again don't go ahead don't overtake أكد الطريق يا المدرسة. Stop again don't go ahead أكد الطريق يا المدرسة. لو انت دول ناشد كبير عاقل عديل ما تيسوا بالمدرسة يا المدرسة. أطفال صغار ما بيعرفوا إيه المطار بس هم دلع يا المدرسة. Stop again don't go ahead don't overtake أكد الطريق يا المدرسة. Stop again don't go ahead
Don't go ahead, don't overtake that victory. Don't go ahead.
لو انت دول ناشد كبير عاقل عديل ما تيسوا بالمدرسة يا المدرسة. أطفال صغار ما بيعرفوا إيه المطار بس هم دلع يا المدرسة. Stop again don't go ahead don't overtake أكد الطريق يا المدرسة. Stop again don't go ahead لو انت دول ناشد كبير عاقل عديل ما تيسوا من المدرسة يا المدرسة. أطفال صغار ما بيعرفوا إيه المضار بس هم دلع يا المدرسة. Stop again don't go ahead don't overtake ما تيسوا من المدرسة.
Thank you so much, everybody.